1. Hey, I'm just some random guy doing the routine grind. I'd say I am an ambivert, but when I'm in solitude, the intensity of my thought process and thoughts themselves border upon sickness. One thought leads to another, and the chain continues. I think about possibilities, consequences, outcomes, both of my actions and that of others in my life. I also have a tendency to surgically analyze what has happened in my life, in conversations, etc. Primarily from a philosophical and psychosociological standpoint, I have a tendency to analyze what would or will happen, and what has happened. This is not to imply that I am an individual who's always held back by their past, or overly anxious about their future. I label my analytical mindset as being educated insight rather than mulling. I'm quite unique in my contributions to society, not being a braggart. My intention here is to point out the fact that I'm a functional member of society, for better or worse. However, things seem to have changed or are changing over the previous 6 months. 3, to put a more exact figure on it. But over the previous 6 months, I've been feeling a few things which are just too hard to ignore. Aside from the changes themselves, it's the persistent feeling of déjà vu that I appear to be experiencing. I'm almost certain that what is going on in my life at the moment has happened, or at the very least, I had prior knowledge of these events on an unconscious level. You might brush it off as the anomalous aforementioned phenomenon known as déjà vu, but this appears to be beyond that. It's a recurring feeling which tells me this has happened already at some point in the past. It's fascinating, but also a bit weird. And it's also creepy to an extent due to the duration of the feeling. Doesn't déjà vu only exist for a fleeting moment? Is it normal for the phenomenon to be a prolonged state of mind over the course of months? From a personal standpoint, there have been a lot of changes in my relationships over the previous few months, both with the opposite sex and same sex. Could the feelings I'm experiencing right now be shadow emotions, or recollections of past experiences? This is the part where I'm not so sure. That'd be simple to understand. There'd be no need for this post if that were the case. Remember the saying, where there is a will, there is a way. I feel that this is the case here, in a quite too literal sense. There are some things which are just too much to be a mere coincidence. For example, I reconnected with a few of my old friends' childhood a year back. It's bizarre because most of my predictions of what would happen about them, have turned out to be right. This in itself isn't weird. What is weird is that these predictions were made by me a decade ago, and they're bang on target. Precognition may be pushing it, but I cannot escape the feeling that I had at some point literally willed this into existence. The specifics of the situations themselves as well. For example, I knew the name of a girl I'd meet at this point in my life and have a thing for, almost 8 years back. Coincidence? Could be. Her name is fairly common. But I predicted the name right down to her last name 8 years ago. What intensifies my curiosity is the fact that my dreams also often predict future events. More so than often, I've had a couple of cases where the dream was bang on target. I knew the name of the company that I'd first worked for 3 to 4 years before I landed the job. I saw this in a dream. Not kidding. I had forgotten about the dream until I got hired by the same company. I didn't make a big deal of the dream prediction then, but now it's too much to ignore. I also knew that I'd switch academic majors in college. Saw that in a dream as well. It was the unnerving accuracy that creeps me out. I'm not sure what to feel at the moment. To be completely honest, I'm a bit freaked out. This is my third glitch-like experience, and I can't help but feel that these are connected in some way. 2. Okay, so this happened around 6 months or so back. but I think about it quite a lot because it was super fucking creepy. The first part isn't a glitch, but it adds to the creepy overall vibe of the night, and I'm pretty sure the end part is a glitch after reading this thread obsessively for about a week now. So one night, my parents were out at a gig or something, and they wouldn't be back until after midnight, so I invited 2 of my friends over, and we were sitting in my dining room. I have a round table with 4 seats that fit into it, kinda like pizza slices, as my friends refer to it. For reference as to how this part goes, here is a little insight as to the layout. So basically, when you walk into my house, there is a short hallway with a door to the left that leads into my living room, and through that you have the dining room, and there are 2 large glass doors that separate the rooms, which we always leave open, and you can see the door from the hall into the living room from the dining room. So when we were sitting in the dining room, we had ordered a pizza and it came, and we had it in that room. I had left the living room door open slightly by accident, as I usually shut it, and this was like an hour after the pizza guy had come and gone. There is a loud knock at the front door, which is weird initially, as it was around 9 p.m. on a Friday night. So I look up from where I was sitting. I could see through the gap between the door and the door frame. And there was this guy with his fucking face pressed up against the door. My door has a large panel of that glass that is kinda blurry, can't think of the word for it, that you can't see through if you are just standing at it, but if you press your face right against it, you can see through. And I tell my friends, and we're all freaked, but I look out again, and I can't see his face anymore. But a few moments later, we hear another knock, so one of my friends says that we should go to the living room and put the blinds down, as they were half opened, and as I walked over to them, the guy was at my next-door neighbor's front window and then started walking away, so God knows if he was at my window first. One of my friends decides that she should open the front door and ask him if he's alright, so I reluctantly agree. Stupid, I know. And the guy is now in his car, in front of my driveway, just sitting in the driver's seat looking straight ahead, with the headlights on. It's pretty dark outside. If the door was opened, you would be able to see it from the peripheral vision, as the hallway was lit up. And he just kept staring straight ahead, so we tried flickering on the outside light to grab his attention. And then he fucking drives off at full speed, so we lock the door. Things were quiet for a good half hour, and we were sitting back at the pizza table, just discussing all the possible reasons that could have happened for. And directly above us we hear 3 loud stomps, like someone or something was trying to get our attention. We are shit scared and don't want to go upstairs, and start to think there is either a ghost messing with us. We have a belief that my house is haunted, but I won't go into detail about that unless you want to know. Or there was an intruder. We had the theory that the reason the guy was pressed up against the door and the living room window was to map out the plan to the house to get in. But then nothing else happened after that, and we assume it was probably my cat jumping off the bed in that room. But I shit you not, less than a minute later, after the stomps, my cat appears outside at the patio doors, looking at us as she does when she wants back in the house. So again we are really creeped out. All the windows upstairs were shut, so there was no way she could have gotten out. So I let her in, and around 45 minutes later, she wants to go back outside. So I let her out again, and my friends and I are joking that it would be funny if she just came downstairs, and we left it at that. My friends waited for my parents to get back before they left, because they didn't want to leave me in the house myself, in case that weird guy came back. We saw my parents' car pull up in the driveway, and just as I was getting up to open the door for them, my cat ran downstairs into the living room, and my friends and I were just looking at each other. Like, how the fuck did that happen? She was outside, and we knew that because we were joking about the situation. That became a reality after we said it. And I hadn't opened the door to let my parents in yet, so she couldn't have ran past me. Plus we heard her running down the stairs. Did my cat glitch? I only thought about it being a glitch after reading the stories on here and didn't have a possible explanation before. 3. My first post was literally just the other day, and I wrote a post about my first ever glitch that happened a short while back. Ever since I posted it, I've been thinking even more about glitches, just laying in bed making myself crazy over the fact that there's so much I don't know about the world and the universe, etc. And that's when I randomly remembered an event that occurred when I was in college, a little over a year ago. Initially, I thought that this story would in no way belong in this subreddit, and that it might fit better in No Sleep or some other scary story or paranormal thread. And honestly, it still might. But what's making me post it here is that I literally just realized, years later, that I'm missing an entire chunk of time leading up to this freaky event. I didn't realize it when it happened, or ever up until now. How did I not remember that I have a period of just black, no memories, leading me up to the occurrence? It's like a glitch within a glitch. Now, it could be looked at as paranormal, but since I'm missing a chunk of time, had I done something that I have absolutely no recollection of? Anyway, on to the story. So a few years ago, I was living in an apartment at my university. I lived with 4 other girls and had one girl living in the room with me, who turned out to be psychotic, but that's another story. One afternoon, it was a weekend. My direct roommate went out and was going to be staying at her boyfriend's overnight, so I would have the room to myself. I decided to have a quiet night in alone, watch some movies, and eat from my favorite pizza place in the city. The last thing I remember is getting on sweatpants and a baggy old t-shirt. When I woke up the next morning, I was in shorts and a sports bra. My laptop was beside me, paused on an episode of Grey's Anatomy. I had a bag full of wrappers from the pizza place on the side table. Now, I literally did not even think anything of it at this point. Like I said, this is an extremely recent realization. I just got up and went to the bathroom. And that's when I looked in the mirror, and I saw that the letter A was literally scratched into my torso. But my question is this a glitch? How am I forgetting an entire night? And why in the hell would I wake up with an A in my skin? And before anyone asks, no, I was not drinking, taking drugs, or anything. The letter A means absolutely nothing significant to me, and I have no explanation for it. I bite my nails extremely short, due to anxiety, so my nails wouldn't be long enough to make scratches in my skin like that. I just can't believe I didn't think of this sooner. Any ideas would be greatly appreciated. Edit. I guess the reason I never questioned not remembering my entire night was because I woke up to everything so normal, like I watched Grey's Anatomy every night on my laptop. I had planned on eating at the pizza place, and I very well could have gotten hot and changed clothes. But now it's not adding up. 4. Ever since I was young, I would have these odd experiences, seeing shadows with no body, making things move or disappear, never to find them again, or always have the feeling that someone is watching me, and capturing glimpses of this someone from the corner of my eye, never to be seen in detail. But one of the most noticeable and slightly disturbing things to happen was that starting June 3rd this year. It started off with me and my girlfriend wanting to meet up with a mutual friend of ours, which we haven't seen in months. We decided to meet up on a Saturday and have a fun day out at IKEA, a large furniture store, and play hide and seek in there. We are very childish. This was the first time going out with friends in a while. I would always see them at school, but never saw anyone else outside of school. A week later, me and my girlfriend, let's call her Jess, left to catch the train to meet our dearly missed friend, and we'll call her Sam. We met at the train station, the 3 musketeers reunited at last, and made our way through the town towards IKEA. After passing a large crowd of people, we walked under the bridge to get to the other side of town. Here, under the bridge, I stopped and looked around. I stood there until Jess noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" With no thought process, I just said, "Something terrible is going to happen today. Not here, but south." I looked up, and they were both staring at me with confused faces. I laughed it off, and said it was just a weird feeling, and they should forget I said anything. They shrugged it off, and we kept walking. We had a great day, went to the cafe, slept on some beds, pushed each other through the place in trolleys. It was fun to get out of the house and act childish once again. We all parted and went home. The next day, I woke up at about 11:30. I was tired out from yesterday and went downstairs. Walking through the living room, I overheard on the TV about a man driving into the pedestrians on London Bridge the day before, Saturday. I was freaked out. I called up Jess and Sam in a rush, telling them of the weird coincidence. Given I live in the West Midlands of England, my warning the day before seemed eerily accurate. That was merely the start of a number of very noticeable series of unnerving events and occurrences. What made this particular event more disturbing was the fact that a few days later, when I went to my local grocery store, I walked into the store and just as I was entering, noticed a man with the exact same jumper I have at home. I thought it's pretty funny how a 40-year-old man has a jumper the same as me. I'm getting sidetracked. As I was walking around collecting letters, getting coffee, picking up milk, I caught a glimpse of 3 people staring at me, but as soon as I looked at them directly, they turned around and walked off. I have to add, I'm not much of a looker, but I'm not too out of the ordinary. My clothing was no different to anyone else's, and I had no cuts or scars visible for anyone to stare at. It was odd, but it happens to people sometimes. As I was at the checkout putting the last bag of shopping back into the trolley, I looked up and the cashier was staring at me. So was the other cashier on the next aisle, also the woman at the checkout, a man behind her, with a scruffy white beard and a navy cap like a sailor, 2 other kids about my age, looking into the window from outside, and a mother with her crying child, all staring at me, blank expression, not breaking eye contact, even when I made it clear I noticed them. I've got a sinking feeling in my gut, and decided that there was no way I was going to stay. I had my shopping, I hastily walked out of the doors, grabbed my bags, and walked home at a speed not quite considered walking, nor jogging. I tried to sleep that night, but those people's faces had ingrained themselves into my thoughts. I slept 2 hours, 3 hours at most, for the next few days. I had social anxiety, so the experience was even more shaking for me. They're just 2 happenings that occurred at the start of a long chain of weird and unsettling happenings. 5. So I've had a near-death experience some time ago. Since then, countless glitches have happened. I'll begin glitch 1, recurring, by saying that as my job, I run a machine which takes a specified amount of time to do its job before my next interaction with it. Depending upon size and shape, this could be anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. Over the past few weeks, something that should take 10 minutes has been finishing far more slowly at times, taking 15 to 20 minutes. At other times, something that should have taken 20 to 30 minutes takes less than 10. Now, before anyone says anything, this is a recurring thing, but I know that it's taking different times than it should, based on the length of material I'm handling. It's not the machine, because it literally has one speed unless I change it. I have not done so, and I check the speed regularly, as it could affect the finished product. This doesn't so much bother me as it does simply annoy me, because it makes 5 to 6 runs of the machine last a hell of a lot less time than it should, resulting in a longer workday. It's almost as if time freezes itself while everything is functioning. I may go into this a bit deeper when I have more time, I don't know. So the second glitch happened yesterday, which is my sole purpose for even writing all of this right now. I've been wanting to for a while, just to sort of compile my thoughts, I guess. But anyway, Yesterday, I was going up the mountain to cross over into the town next to where I work. There was a red car following me, a sedan, which appeared to be either a Grand Dam or an Alero. Something of similar body style. As I rounded the top of the mountain and began off the other side, there was no longer a red sedan behind me at all, but a black SUV. I'm unsure of the type, as it was small and didn't look familiar to me. It was about 1/10 of a mile behind me, exactly where the sedan was. There are no outlets except one driveway, which I'd have seen an SUV come from, and no other roadways to or from the mountain, until you're on flat ground again. This made me believe that it's very possible to manipulate the world around us, and cause things to change. Not because of the simplicity of it, but because, really, who would expect someone to be looking in their rear view going up a mountain, where no one but you and one other car are traveling? It seemed almost as if the person in the car decided they wanted an SUV and simply changed their vehicle, thinking no one would notice. Edit. Since my near-death experience, I've experienced far more of the Mandela effect than I'd ever like to admit to anyone. To the point I believe I lost my mind and regained my composure and just chugged along with it. Examples include a lot of things that most everyone noticed of those that experienced this effect, like the Ford logo now having a little hoop in the F, other car manufacturer logos looking strange, or the Bernstein Bears being spelled exactly like that where I came from, and being spelled with an A here. Also, several things have changed inside my own personal bubble. Subtle things, but strange nonetheless. I won't go into those currently because they seem irrelevant. Maybe another time. I pointed out the Bernstein Bears in particular because I actually posted in a thread on Reddit before my incident, in which most people said it's Bernstein, showed proof. And several were completely shocked by this because apparently they're from this reality, where it's spelled with an A. I remember this because I even explained as to why people may have confused it with an A, not realizing it wasn't confusion, but some twisted version of reality I never saw prior. A few days later, after the Bernstein Bears thread, I had been working under my fiancé's car and moved too quickly, slamming my head against a jack stand that was supporting the front driver's side. Mind you, I'd been working in a rock driveway where stability isn't exactly the best. Anyway, I know I made the car fall, because I heard the jack hit the ground, the car falling to the rocks, and I don't recall actually seeing anything. About 30 seconds later, I realized I could very well be crushed, and I slid out from under the car, checked the stability of it, and sat in complete shock for what seemed like hours, but was only a few moments. After finishing what I was doing, I came inside to relax and watch some TV, wondering what the hell just happened. The next day I woke up with horrible pain in my abdomen, exactly where the subframe of the car would have landed and crushed my torso. Since then, I've not only experienced Mandela effect, but also what I can only describe as lots of glitches. Almost as if something got crossed in my head after all this happened. There were times where I used to work in a warehouse as a picker that left me baffled. Ending up in the wrong aisles even after the equipment I was using told me to go there. The clock, even the one on my phone, being mysteriously slow. I once picked an entire cart of 8 customer totes, 20 to 30 items each during a sale, in under 5 minutes, when something similar would normally take at least 15 minutes to complete. Due to the size of the area I was picking, at times the morning would go by so quickly. I'd be wondering what was going on, etc. There are a lot of weirder things though. Since this experience, my fiancé's car attracts birds. I don't understand this at all, but in the past few months, she's hit several of them. They literally fly into her, almost as if they're suicidal. I've been in the car on 2 occasions where this has happened, and it's happened a few other times. Once on her way to work, she hit a grouse and it lodged into the air dam in the front bumper. Also, since the incident with the car, I've been seeing things differently. Some colors appear, different shades. All things that are black seem shiny, almost like gloss paint, even if it's just black primer. This could be accounted by the fact that I whacked my head, certainly, but I don't know. There are literally countless Mandela effect things, but I think the strangest thing that's happened so far is actually the fluctuations in time. It used to scare me quite a bit when this first started, because I honestly thought I was blacking out or something. But this is entirely impossible now due to my current job detail, as I have to be alert, and I've never once fucked up anything as a result of not being. Yet, time continues to slip, or slow. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, number 46. You know, when I started these, I thought it was just going to be a once-in-a-blue-moon kind of thing, but here we are, 46 episodes already. Well, actually more than that, because I've done a few videos with just kind of random numbers in them. But, yep, seems to be popular, and for as long as you guys like them, I'll keep doing them. Which actually reminds me, I've maybe got a week's worth of stories left for Glitch, so I'm going to have to get onto Reddit and go about trying to source a few more just to make sure I've got plenty to be going on with. So I'm going to keep this outro a little bit short just for this video, head off and get to work on making the videos, and then I'll see about sourcing some more stories. Maybe, unless I get bored and just be lazy later. We'll see. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.